Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday service for First Baptist Church of Manchester Center, Vermont. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. The announcements this morning, we have a young adult game night. Not really sure when that is, but if you are attending that, you will know from 7 to 9. This Tuesday at 5, we have a prudential meeting. Prayer group and book discussion Tuesday evening from 7 to 9, and a mission meeting on Wednesday at 3, and all of these are via Zoom. And our word of preparation this morning, this is A Child Learns to Trust by Lori Hayes Kaufman. My mom is my shepherd, I shall not want. She makes me lie down under cool, downy comforts. She watches me play beside still waters. She restores my soul. She leads me in paths of respect, responsibility, and goodness, for I am her namesake. Yea, even though I walk past monsters in the dark, I will not be scared, because my mom is always near me. Her hands and her voice, they comfort me. Mom sets the table and cheerfully calls me to dinner, even in front of big mean bullies. She anoints my skinned knees and broken heart with kisses. She smiles and throws me a towel when my cup runneth over. Surely God's peace, power, and mercy shall uphold me all the days of my life. For my mother taught me to dwell in the house of God forever. My beloved child, when your heart is full of wisdom, my heart is full of gladness. Your future is bright and filled with a living hope that will never fade away. As you listen to me, my beloved child, you will grow in wisdom, and your heart will be drawn into understanding, which will empower you to make right decisions. When a parent observes their child living in godliness, they are ecstatic with joy. Nothing makes them prouder. So may your father's heart burst with joy and your mother's soul be filled with gladness because of you. Our opening hymn is Hymn of Promise.
Would you join in the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Scripture reading this morning comes from Matthew chapter 20, verses 26 to 28 from the Passion Translation. The greatest one among you will live as the one who is called to serve others, because the greatest honor and authority is reserved for the one with the heart of a servant. For even the Son of Man did not come expecting to be served by everyone, but to serve everyone and to give his life in exchange for the salvation of many. Now we are blessed to have our message this morning brought to us by Glenna Taxter.
Good morning, everyone. I've titled my message, A Mother's Heart, but before I can begin the actual message, I need to take you back in time a bit. I grew up on a farm in Londonderry, a couple of miles up the hill from the main road. It was a small farm of about 50 cows or so. There was my grandfather, my father, mother, older sister, older brother, younger brother, and me. The year is 1952, early October. One of those cold, frosty mornings when the grass is so thick with frost it looks as if it had snowed. I shared a bedroom with my sister at the back of the house on the main floor, and the stairs to the upper level was near our bedroom. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I could hear my grandfather's footsteps on the stairs. That really wasn't unusual because he and my dad always got up very early in the morning to begin the day. And then suddenly he yelled, "Fire! Fire!" My grandfather had what was referred to as a barrel chest, and he had lungs that could fill it. So when he yelled "fire," I was bolt upright in bed. I jumped out of the bed, ran from the bedroom, through the dining room. I hesitated when I got to the kitchen doorway because I couldn't decide whether to continue going forward through the kitchen or turn and go through the living room. But my sister was right behind me, and she went for the living room, so I decided to follow her. She was 7 years older after all, and it was a better decision. As I went through the living room, I could see my mom at the phone. She had the receiver in one hand, and she was holding my 2-year-old baby brother on her other arm. I ran out the front door and stood on the grass facing the house. My father and grandfather were there. I stood there in my blue flannel polka-dotted pajamas, dancing from one bare foot to the other, and I watched them. They each had a metal bucket, and they would go to the watering trough and fill their bucket with water and come back and throw it on the flames. Well, my sister joined them. She would have been 14 at the time, so now she had a bucket. And I remember watching my father so patiently, so calmly, showing her how to throw the water so it'd be the most effective. And I thought, that's funny. The house is burning down, and my father is so calmly teaching my sister how to throw water. But pretty soon he turned to her and he said, "Tell your mother to get out. We can't save it." My mom had been standing just inside the door holding my little brother, hoping, of course, that they would douse the flames and the day would get on like any other day. But that wasn't meant to be. So my mom came out, and all of us kids went down to the big picnic rock below the house. Well, almost all of us. When we got down there, she quickly realized that my 11-year-old brother was not with us. So my sister had to run back inside the house and convince him that the house was burning down and that she wasn't just playing a mean trick on him before he finally agreed to come down and join us. So now there we all were, sitting on the rock with my mom, and we watched the little fire truck come up the hill, and we watched our house burn down. It was one of those sprawling farms where the house was connected to the shed, which was connected to the garage, which was connected to the ice house. And then there's a barnyard and the stables and the barn. And the fire started pretty much in the middle, went both ways, taking down structure after structure. It even jumped the road and took down a building from the other side. By the time it was done, and it burned for flared up for 3 days, and took down about 7 structures. By the time it was done, the only thing left was a shed way out beyond the barn that held large machinery like tractors, and the chicken house, which was across the road and far enough away just to feel the scorch of the flames. And the only other thing was the massive stone chimney that rose up in the middle of all the ashes. Well, on that first day, as soon as my father saw that his family was okay, his attention turned to his cows. They had been released from the stanchions and driven out into the fields just in time, so there's no loss of life there. But now he had cows that expected to be milked twice a day, and he had no barn and no machinery, and that the milk was our only income. He did manage to find a used barn a few miles away. It was not in good shape at all, but he and the cows made do. And my mom's attention turned to her kids. What do you do with a family of 7? Well, my Aunt Max lived not too far away, so it was decided that she and Dad and my grandfather, my baby brother, would stay there until she could get us all under one roof. But it wasn't big enough for all of us. So that meant she had to find places for the rest of us, my older sister, my older brother, and for me. I was 7. And this is where my message really begins for you today, because over the next couple of weeks, I was to meet 2 of the most amazing women to ever come into my life. The first place she took me to was into the neighboring town of Weston, to a small home that had a grandmother and a granddaughter. I didn't even know who they were, but my parents knew them, of course. And I've often wondered what that grandmother thought when she opened the door and found this timid little 7-year-old child on her doorstep who had never slept away from her home, even for a single night, and whose only possession was a pair of blue flannel polka-dotted pajamas. But she welcomed me in. This home had little in the way of resources. Most notably, there was no indoor plumbing. I'm sure I had encountered an outhouse somewhere along in my early years, but never as the only option 24/7. But kids can be pretty adaptable about things, and quite frankly, I don't remember much about that. If it happened today, you can be sure my whole message could center around it, but as it was, I didn't notice that too much. What I remember is standing in her kitchen, and at the end of the kitchen was the wood stove. And over at the side, there was a counter or a cabinet or something where the sink was. No faucets, just the sink basin. And mounted to the side of the sink was a small hand pump where she could pump some water. And I watched her pick up a small pan, like a saucepan, pump some water into it. Then she picked up a used toothbrush. And as she turned to go to the stove, she looked at me and she said, "I will boil this used toothbrush for you so that it'll be safe for you to use." I suppose I could have thought, ew, a used toothbrush, but I didn't think that. Actually, what I had was more of a feeling than a thought. And the feeling was, this woman will take care of me. She'll keep me safe. She had just given me the gift of safety. And it was a gift I very much needed at that moment. Well, after I'd been there several days, my mom came and took me to my second place. This one was in Londonderry, at the end of the town that goes out towards Chester. The post office used to be down there. And across from the post office was the hill that goes up. It's still there. It connects to South Derry. And this house was just a short ways up that hill. And this home had a little bit more in the way of resources. There was indoor plumbing. There was also a boy a year or 2 younger than I was, so someone to play with, and that was definitely going to help the time go faster. One of the things I remember us doing a lot was taking turns riding his bicycle up and down the dirt road in front of the house. So one day we were out there riding the bicycle, and this mom came out, and she said she was going to walk down to the post office. Well, pretty soon I saw her walking back. And she looked like she was walking right toward me, and she had something in her hand. And when she got to me, she knelt down in the gravel, and she handed me a doll. She bought the doll at the post office, which I think was the only place in town where you could buy any toys, and right there in the lobby. And now she's handing it to me. I wish I could describe the doll to you. I've tried so hard to remember what it looked like, and I can't. I'm sure it was an ordinary doll. I just can't imagine that the post office sold anything very fancy. But still, it seems like I'd remember it, because the only time we got toys was like Christmas and maybe on the birthday. So this would have been a really big deal. But here's what I remember. The look on her face. Her face radiated such joy that she could give me this, that she could do this for me. Her joy was so strong that it made me feel like the world was a good place. The world was a happy place. That the world was a place of joy. What a gift. And what an awesome God we have. He knows what we need before we even need it. He knew what I needed. The toothbrush and the doll were props, really, to what I needed, because first I needed to feel safe. And then I needed to feel like the world was a joyful place, and that I too would one day feel that joy. God had prepared these women for me with caring hearts, with mothers' hearts, way before I was even born. And I believe He'll prepare all of us with mothers' hearts if we're open to Him, because it really doesn't have anything to do with gender or age. In Peter 4, verse 10, it says, every believer has received grace gifts, so use them to serve one another. So it's really about a condition of the heart. It's about a willingness to step up when the nudge of God comes upon us. And the nice thing is, we don't really have to know what it's going to look like or how it's going to happen. Certainly that grandmother wasn't thinking, this child needs to feel safe. I will boil her a toothbrush. She wasn't thinking that. She just gave her the right heart, and God made the gift right. Sometimes I find myself wondering if I even said thank you. I hope I did. I think I would have, because my mother was really strict about things like that. But I've decided that when I get to heaven, I'll look them up just to be sure. In one of the books we plan to use for the Tuesday prayer group, I came across the quote from St. Francis of Assisi, where he said, preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. Well, these women didn't use words. They didn't need them. And if you think about what they did, they were really small things, I guess. I mean, it wasn't like they led me to Christ or anything, but they showed me what Christ looked like. And although I don't remember everything, I'll always remember that. So what have we done, you and me, that someone will remember years later with such gratitude? I suspect that over the past couple months, there's been several things that will live in people's hearts forever. But sometimes I think we sell ourselves short. We think, oh, what do I have to give? Or let someone else do it, someone who has more money, more resources. And I agree, if someone has huge resources, I hope they give hugely. But think about it, a used toothbrush and an ordinary doll? Does that sound like abundant resources? And yet, that's what God used. Russ and I heard a speaker once talk about the jewels in the journey. She said that in every challenge, there are these moments. Maybe something we see, a song, something we read, maybe a person. These moments that help us get from one step to the next, so that no matter what we're going through, no matter how tough it is, there are jewels to be found if we only look for them. Right now, God is preparing other people to be there for us, to be our jewels, if you will. People we don't even know we're going to need yet, but God knows we're going to need them because He knows all our needs. There are no surprises with God. And He also wants to prepare us to be the jewels in someone else's journey. God is looking for a mother's heart. A mother's heart serves when she seemingly has little to give. A mother's heart serves when it's inconvenient. A mother's heart isn't dependent on age or gender. A mother's heart is always on the alert for the nudge of God. God has put this kind of heart inside each of us. Take care of one another, He said. So, happy Mother's Day, everyone. Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, we give our hearts to You and ask that You mold them into the hearts You need to protect and love Your people. Help us to be alert and compassionate to those around us, to those You have purposely placed in front of us to love and serve. Give us the courage to answer Your call, and give us the wisdom to know the right words or the right actions. We know that if we allow You to work on our hearts, You will make every gift we give the right gift. We thank You for all the wonderful mothers in the world, and thank You for making each of us part of Your plan to help others by using the gifts You have so purposely placed in our hands. In your Son's precious name. Amen.
So yeah, this is our Mother's Day tribute. I couldn't help but be drawn to the opening lines of the song when you were talking there, Glenna, and that these women had their hearts open wide, and they drew a sacrifice from the depths of what they had, from the low points of what they had. Like you said, they didn't have a lot, but what they gave was still a tremendous sacrifice, and still a tremendous gift to you. So let's sing "Lay Me Down" as a tribute to mothers. And with this heart open wide, from the depths, from the heights, I will bring the sacrifice. And with these hands lifted high, hear my song, hear my cry. I will bring the sacrifice. I will bring a sacrifice. I lay me down, I'm not my own. I belong to you alone. Lay me down, lay me down. Oh, hand on my heart, this much is true. There's no life apart from you. And lay me down, lay me down. Letting go of my pride, giving up all my rights. Take this life and let it shine, shine, shine. Take this life and let it shine. I lay me down, I'm not my own. I belong to you alone. Lay me down, lay me down. Oh, hand on my heart, this much is true. There's no life apart from you. Lay me down, lay me down. Oh, lay me down, lay me down, oh, lay me down. And it'll be my joy to say your will, your way. And it'll be my joy to say your will, your way. And it'll be my joy to say your will, your way, always. And it'll be my joy to say your will, your way. And it'll be my joy to say your will, your way. And it'll be my joy to say your will, your way, always. I lay me down, I'm not my own. I belong to you alone. Lay me down, lay me down. Oh, and on my heart, this much is true. There's no life apart from you. Lay me down, lay me down. Oh, lay me down, lay me down. Oh, lay me down. Thank you, mothers.
And here's your benediction. This is from Psalm 67, verse 1. God, keep us near your mercy fountain and bless us. And when you look down on us, may your face beam with joy. Amen.